Hi, everybody. Bob Fitzgerald from Brave Haven Media. We're glad you're here with us tonight. We hope everybody is doing well and everybody's getting ready for the big event that's coming up this week. The big event is Christmas 2010. So with that, we'd like to get started with our show. We would like to thank West Valley City Fire Department for their generosity in sponsoring us and allowing us to bring you these important safety messages. Now tonight we're on the third of a 7-part series on earthquake preparedness. The first week we talked about things that you can do around your home to make your home a little bit safer and make it a better place for you and your family in the event of an earthquake. And last week we talked about preparing a disaster plan for your family and talking about how to do things and those kind of things. Well, tonight we're going to talk about something a little more personal and probably one of the most important and key ingredients in a good outcome in an emergency, particularly in an earthquake. Tonight, we're talking about preparing disaster supply kits for you and for your family. So without any further ado, we're going to get started because we've got a lot of material to cover tonight, and we want to make sure we get it in. Now, we've got up on the screen our call-in number. At any time tonight, if you want to call in, feel free to dial that toll-free number, 800-716-9841. We would love to talk to you and hear from you. And please call it at any time during the program. We'll stop, we'll talk, we'll address your questions. Even if it's something a little different than what we're talking about, we'll talk about what you need to talk about, and so we can ease your mind and help you in the event of a natural disaster such as an earthquake. So let's get rolling here. Preparing disaster supply kits, or personal disaster supply kits, whatever you want to call it. Now, everyone should have a personal disaster supply kit. You need to keep them where you spend most of your time. You do that so they can easily be reached, even if your building is badly damaged. The kits will be useful for many, many emergencies, not just earthquakes, but in many things. Now, you should keep one kit in your home, another in your car, and a third kit at your work. Backpacks or other small bags are usually the best for your disaster supply kits, so you can take them with you if you need to. They have the handles and the straps, and you can do that. Now, include at least the following items. You should include any medications, a prescription list, copy of medical cards, doctor's name, and contact information, medical consent forms for your dependents, first aid kit and a handbook, examination gloves, non-latex is the best, a dust mask, some spare eyeglasses or contact lenses, and cleaning solution if that's necessary, some bottled water, a whistle to alert rescuers to your location, some good shoes, some emergency cash, road maps, list of emergency out-of-area contact phone numbers. We talked about that last week. Some snack foods that are high in water and calories. A working flashlight with extra batteries and light bulbs, or some light sticks. Any personal hygiene supplies you might need, toilet paper and the such. Comfort items such as games, crayons, writing materials, teddy bears, toiletries, and special provisions you need for yourself and others in your family. And that should include the elderly, the disabled, small children, and your animals. You should have some copies of personal identification, such as your driver's license, your work ID card, etc. Those all should be kept in your household disaster supply kit. Now, electrical, water, transportation, and other vital systems will most likely be disrupted for several days or much longer in some places after a large earthquake. We've seen that in Katrina and all those other things. Emergency response agencies, hospitals are going to be overwhelmed and unable to provide you with immediate assistance. Now, providing first aid and having supplies will make lives, to help save lives, will make life more comfortable and give you a better peace of mind. It'll help you cope after the earthquake and after those aftershocks. Now, in addition to your personal disaster supply kits, store a household disaster supply kit in an easily accessible location, and generally in a large watertight container that can easily be moved. Now, this should have a supply of the following items to last at least 3 days and ideally for 2 weeks. You should have water, minimum of 1 gallon a day for each person, some wrenches to turn off gas and water supplies, some work gloves, protective goggles, heavy-duty plastic bags for waste, and to serve as tarps and rain ponchos, or other uses. I mean, that stuff's great to have. A portable radio with extra batteries, or you can get those hand crank type. You should have additional flashlights or light sticks. Should have some canned and packaged foods, some charcoal or gas for your grill for outdoor cooking, matches if needed, cooking utensils, including a manual can opener, pet food and pet restraints, comfortable warm clothing including extra socks, blankets, sleeping bags, and maybe even a tent. Copies of vital documents such as insurance policies. Use and replace perishable items like water, food, medications, and batteries on a yearly basis. You should come up with some kind of rotation for all those things. Now, a special note about children. If earthquakes scare us because we feel out of control, think how much more true this must be for children who already depend on adults for so much of their lives. It's important to spend time with your children in your care before the next earthquake, to explain why earthquakes occur, involve them in developing your disaster plan and disaster preparedness supplies and kits, and practice drop, cover, and hold on. You should consider stimulating post-earthquake conditions by going without electricity or tap water. Now, those are just some tips there, and I want to talk for just a second about the relevance of that. We had a small earthquake here in Utah, and I remember it affected my children. They were scared. And it wasn't a big earthquake at all. It was just a sudden jolt, and it was over. But my kids felt that. And they felt it not only physically, but they felt it emotionally. And it concerned them. So make sure that you talk about these things with your children. Prepare them as much as you can. There's just no way for us to completely prepare our children for the events of an earthquake. There's so much going on in an earthquake, and these young minds are so impressionable, and like I mentioned, they rely on us for everything. So take the time to plan and talk about this with your children. That is so important that we do that. Involve our families in the plan, and that'll give them buy-in, and it'll help them, give them a sense of purpose in what they're doing in the event of the earthquake when it happens. Now, after the earthquake, remember that children will be under great stress. They're going to be wigged out. They might be frightened. Their routine is going to be disrupted. And the aftershocks won't let them forget about the experience. Adults tend to leave their children in order to deal with the many demands of the emergency. But that could be devastating to your children. Extra contact and support from the parents in the early days will pay off later. Now, whenever possible, include them in the recovery process. Help them be a part of the solution. As you do this, great things will happen, and they will be able to feel so much better about things. This really, tonight is episode really follows up with last week's episode, in that we kind of talked about the plan, and this is a component of the plan. It's so important for you to have those things. Now, in a future episode in January, we're going to repeat this 7-part series, but we're going to do it in more detail. We're going to have samples to show you, and we're going to interview some people and talk to them about those things. But we want you to understand just how important it is. These simple, basic things are for you to follow. Now, I've got a book here, and this book, let me switch my view here real quick. This book is called Putting Down Roots in Earthquake Country, and it's available online. You can go online if you just put a search in Google or whatever, putting down roots in earthquake country, or just type in earthquake country. It'll bring up reference to this little booklet. This is a great booklet, and it talks about the 7 steps that we're going through, and it reinforces those things, and it just gives you that simple guide. This is not an all-encompassing program that is going to give you every answer. In fact, we give you very few answers because every one of our families are different. Everybody's household is different. Everybody's home is different. You might be affected greatly, and you might be affected not so greatly. But if you take the time to get into this book, and if you take the time to review the steps that we've talked about, you're going to be better prepared in the event of an emergency to survive. And you know what? If you're one of the fortunate who is prepared and you're lightly touched by it, you know what? You might be one of the greatest assets to the emergency responders who are going to be overwhelmed, as you can lift their burden by taking care of some of the people that need immediate attention. So thank you for joining us tonight. This is Bob Fitzgerald from Brave Haven Media. Again, I want to thank our sponsor, West Valley City Fire Department. What a great department they are, and we are grateful to have them as a sponsor. Now, be good, be safe, and be smart. And this is Bob Fitzgerald from Brave Haven Media saying thank you.